Mm. Hello, hello. With a little bit delay, but we are live on umbraCoffee episode 187. Hello, Callum. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Uh,
Marcin.
how are you? How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm tired. I'm very tired. It's been a busy week. The reason we were late starting umbraCoffee is we were having a good catch up about, well, everything's been going on. And yeah, what have you been up to?
Yeah, exactly the same. Probably we were regretting that we didn't record it and we didn't press the start button then. But maybe you can help us as well. Can you or do you want to have an umbraCoffee Lungo episode about I don't know time management,
Work-life balance.
burnouts,
Yeah,
work-life balance, everything outside of work related, but of course affecting the work life. Let us know, leave a thumbs up or a comment here in the live chat. We may organize something like that outside of the umbraCoffee news segments on usual Friday, because still it's very interesting topic. Again, after years right now of dealing with COVID and all the restrictions and all the stuff, I think we gain some experience, and we can definitely share it. And everyone, probably all of you, can share some of the experiences because it's still affecting us, and we cannot lie, right, about it.
for sure.
But yeah, coming back to the normal segment of umbraCoffee news, it was it's a summer. Probably summer is
Yeah.
affecting the amount
I
of
said we should have titled this episode "Where the Hell is Everyone?" because
yeah.
literally there was nothing huge happened this week. We had Skrift updates and a couple of package updates and things, but honestly, if you compare it to say 2 months ago, where we were struggling to even condense things down to an hour, this is really scraping the barrel this week. There's very little there.
But we should just enjoy this piece right now, because it's a comfortable position to be in, because we can safely discuss all the stuff, maybe ask you about some feedback here, and yeah, just relate to all what happened
I was
there.
actually thinking this morning, is this maybe what the community feels like for people that aren't in the UK or Denmark, where the communities are big and busy and people are kind of really active on Twitter? If you're in Australia or something, is this what the community feels like all the time? Because I think right now the thing is that those are the two most vocal bits of the community. Denmark, they all take a nice long summer vacation, all go offline for multiple weeks. That's great. We don't do that in the UK, but then it's school holidays and people go away for a bit. I'm sure it's the same in Poland and elsewhere too in the US. But it means that all of these vocal people step away from their computers, and so suddenly it gets all really quiet. At least in the circles that you would normally expect to be louder. I've seen even on the Slack this week people going, where is everyone? Because no one's really pinging any messages.
Yeah, that's interesting to observe. Of course, it's summer, and hopefully everything will be back to normal after the summertime. But yeah, we should all probably enjoy some of the time off. And I limited all of the activities, limited my social media presence and stuff like that as well.
I saw you said on Twitter this week that you've not touched an IDE, not a line of code, in 3 weeks.
Even probably more. I'm not I'm time tracking my activity since 2 or 3 weeks again, and no coding was involved in this time. So yeah, I can't remember when was the last time when I opened Visual Studio. But that's a positive of this situation, I think. And
Nice
yeah,
every
again.
once in a while.
Yeah, again, it's needed for all of us. But yeah, thanks to that, I enjoy the catch-ups of the news, because I learned through them as well. And it's good to see that, besides that's the summer, and besides maybe less activity around the world in general, we still have some good things to catch up, and probably a long line of videos from Code Garden still to watch. So yeah, let's jump on the news. Starting from Skrift release, which you've mentioned, and two good articles. One of them about Umbraco and Blazor, from Jeroen and Leonard, describing how to set up the whole Umbraco 9 solution to work with Blazor. I don't know, Callum, what about you? But it reminded me all of the good times of code behind classes and some
I just
web forms.
cannot get behind this Blazor thing.
Yeah.
I just can't. I saw someone
here.
I follow on Twitter. Shout out to Dan Clark. He's very active in the .NET community. He tweeted this week he was on holiday and he decided he would give Blazor a go. And he ended up rewriting on his holiday a client's website front end using Blazor just for the sake of it, just for the fun. And okay, great, you've learned a new technology. But I personally just cannot see how this fits into my. I'm sure in like 5 years' time, I can watch this clip back and go, yeah, I was absolutely wrong. But I just sigh every time I hear someone talking about it. It's cool, but I just don't get it.
You know, I've started from web forms. That was my first serious coding, ASP.NET, and this all looks exactly same. But of course, I'm sure it works extremely better than these days, back in the past. But on-click function code, how it's different than functions here, right? It's not different.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, again,
when you're building, let's say, like a proper, like a well-architected view app or something with components and everything, it's not dissimilar, syntactically not dissimilar. But okay, that's another thing, and nothing to do with Blazor specifically, but Netcore in general, and I guess it's more related to the next Skrift article, is async in views, which just like having to await responses from things that we've never had to do before. They just feel like completely different paradigms to me. Like the UI is synchronous and the back end can be async, but times are changing. We've got to shift, learn all of these new things, the special tags.
We have a couple ways of achieving that. Right now, we can either let front-end teams or JavaScript stack lovers to do their work and bundle everything within their code, or mix it through to come back to the full stack approach and again work with async, except that's most of the things are happening still on front end and requires some of the data processing behind the scenes. But yeah, async is the change here. And you've met Konrad Kokosa, right? They've released a great course about async in .NET some back in the time, and I think still. As a .NET developer who didn't code for a couple of weeks, but still a .NET developer, I think we all need a lot of extension knowledge about asyncs and how it works. What are the challenges? What are the problems? We never.
Get it. And saying, oh yeah, no, I know async. I can work with async. And just going .result on everything is not working with async. Or I know we've talked about this before, Marcin, how early days of kind of getting our heads around doing async. You'd write like some async helper. There's all kinds of
to run synchronously. Yeah,
run
first
async code synchronously. It's like, oh come on, yeah, true. But
yeah, it's called async expert. So yeah, free advert for the guys here. But yeah, if anyone wants to catch up on async experts, there is a really cool, nice course, which just shows, and that's an interesting point from my perspective. It just shows how complex it is. Because, it's not just async and await, right? See that, threading, basics, task aggregations, hardware concurrency, synchronization, and all the stuff. Still, we as Umbraco developers, let's say, we might not deal with that much yet. But we might need to when we'll be dealing with some bigger challenges with .NET Core and some other stuff.
It's going to become a reality. Everything in .NET's going async. So you've probably noticed most of the Microsoft libraries and APIs that you'll have used in .NET Framework, even all of the methods now are kind of returning async stuff, and that's just the way that the framework and the language is going. But yeah, it's for people that have been working specifically in the web area. I think it's a little bit more challenging to get their heads around.
So maybe Blazor will hide some of this complexity and again be the bridge between old school .NET developers and new school async freaks who will be doing everything in functions. You've mentioned second article, and I really like this as well. And this is a new way of dealing with partial components of our views in
the equivalent of child actions in NetFramework.
Yes. Exactly. It's called View Components, and Dennis here wrote a really cool introduction article to that with really good also summary that should we use or not use this instead of partial views, and why we might still want to have partial views. So yeah, it's not something what completely will replace partial views, but this is an option, especially for the components-driven setups or architectures of views or templates in general. I haven't explored it that much yet, but it looks like something what will still satisfy the front-end teams, maybe micro front-ends as well.
The same argument is applied to child actions versus partials in .NET framework, where you can basically you return a response, which might be a view or it might be just a string or something. You do something, but it allows you to actually run code before you run your view. So you can build up a view model or perform some logic. And it takes all of that out of your views to keep your views really clean. So definitely the kind of people on the more purist side of doing MVC properly have been doing child actions for a long time. And the components, I think, is better because rather than them having to be part of a controller, they're actually their own class. So I think you implement I component or something, or extend view component, and then you can then it's kind of encapsulated, and you can do DI in those as well. It's all geared up properly in .NET Core. So there's a load of benefits to this, but it's the same argument that's existed for a long time. You can probably build a website never touching like C# compiled code. You could do everything in the view, couldn't you? And you can even inject stuff in views in .NET Core now. So
you can also write, a really nice pattern matching, checking if the returned object is of the type, and then return some of the components based on that. That's we won't find a single answer for that and single confirmation is it good or not good. And I recently found a really cool tweets from .NET team members who explored the pattern matching for the first time. They were saying, "Oh, damn, it's here. We can use is keyword here," which is also funny to see. From the sources of people who are working on it, that they are surprised by some of the possibilities. But yeah, final bit of that is again we can also invoke async the components here and load some of the code asynchronously there. What probably will be more in use.
All of the examples that Dennis mentions in that article are from his V9 demo site, which is we've raved about before. It's really good. It's on his GitHub, so go check that out as well. But to kind of see it maybe in more context and in action, that's probably the best place.
And let us know if you are using this kind of approach and share your knowledge if you do, because it's always good to see other approaches. Product update from Umbraco HQ side, summer edition as well, straight from Rune.
I think the product update's gone on holiday as well, to be fair, because
lot of sun in this product update as well. And as Soren said, they are always on vacation here in Denmark, so possibly that's the case. But yeah, there was a mention about new releases of patches for Umbraco Forms and Deploy.
The Forms ones are fixing some regression from the patches the previous week. So if you've not updated yet, do now and update these ones. But if you did update and you're on Forms v6 or 4, which I think still affects v7, then you'll need to update those too.
Yeah, exactly. So remind your team members, and if you didn't rush it, that's good for you because you will do it on one go. But still, this the safe period of 4 weeks window is open. We are probably in the middle somewhere, right? Somewhere in the middle of this period.
Coming towards the end.
So still time and last minute to deploy and release safely before it will be exposed completely. Umbraco Deploy update as well, released on August 3rd, and a short update of where release candidate and package betas are, with some summary of community packages and list of packages shared here. And that's all. This is already passed, right? So we can submit the survey and still catch up on Code Garden's videos. 62 videos to watch. I have it on my list somewhere, but it's really far behind. That's a summer edition of product update. Package update. Soren from Novicel released an OEmbed property editor for Umbraco, which allows to use OEmbed data, so videos or images from external sources for V9. So if there were some requirements to use it on V9, it's possible with this property editor directly.
I was going to just say as well, jump back to the our page. I said this last week. About Nick's package, of course, whenever you release a V9 package, it says there's no release when you go to the page. So
yes,
what's
here.
really cool is maybe if someone can make a pull request for this, someone's got some time this weekend. If you've supplied a NuGet URL, there's definitely a package and it definitely exists. So it would make sense to show the version maybe that's been reported on the edit package and make the button link to the NuGet package, so that at the very least the page doesn't look completely broken like it does now. Because going forward, when we move away from the package format, these pages are going to be dead. They're not going to do anything. It's all going to be on NuGet. So I think now would be a great time, as people are starting to add more packages, to get that button fixed.
Yeah, I think it's a good discussion here. What this button should do then? Should it redirect to NuGet? Should it do anything? Should it download the new package file maybe for local testing? Who knows? Right? That's a good discussion.
In the back office in V9, if you explore and browse to a package, it actually tells you go to NuGet and install this. And here's how you do that. So it makes sense, I think, that OWL would work in the same way.
Yeah. But yeah, the package is here. It's ready to be used, and it's good to see even more packages, open source packages as well, to be used with V9. Shannon released an interesting upgrade also for XaminX package, fixing an issue with cold boot start and indexes being rebuilded on replica servers. And yeah, everyone who uses the decentralized source of data for search indexes, for example XaminX, can benefit from analyzing this log. And what surprised me is like how to test it, for example. Right? I didn't know that if I will delete the dist cache from the temp folder, it might trigger the other servers to replicate their data sets. So we can learn through issues being fixed by Shannon and other members like that. But yeah, XaminX and people who are using it can test it, and issue is closed now. Coming back to summer updates, there are some meetups, and there were some meetups. I was surprised yesterday seeing the first in-person, probably the first in-person meetup, right?
In a long time. This is their first in 18 months. I actually went to the very last Bleeds meetup in March of last year. So it's been a long time since they've had one in person. But this is it was a trial. So they limited it to, I think, 12 people and said, we're going to be here. If you feel comfortable, come. You can only come if your name's, on the list. And I think they were saying they might try and alternate these. So do one virtual, one in person. It's nice to be able to meet people. And if you feel it's safe and people are responsible, I think it's fine. But also that we don't want to lose the virtual audience. I said yesterday, in fact, on a call that the Umbraco London meetup, we don't have anyone from London joining anymore. It's just people from elsewhere, from outside of London and even outside of the UK. And that's great. We love having those people. It's been fantastic to connect with people. No. But I'd love to see some people in London in person as well at some point.
Yeah, and start the tripping and traveling again. That would be really, really beneficial for all of us, I believe. But as a reference to that, whoever will dream to join Australia meetup, for example, in person, or who would be able to, and now we still are, right? And there is a really nice talk lined up for the next Australia meetup. It's about Azure front door setup for multi-site Umbraco. And the meetup is on August 11th, an online event, and I think even if we and I used front door for multiple times, I still think it's worth seeing how others are doing that.
Yeah. And there's of course Mario did a Skrift article, didn't he, on this same topic? Yep. So I guess it's a continuation of that.
Exactly, and it's online already. 14 attendees signed up.
And it's a perfect time for people in the northern hemisphere as well, because it's like north central hemisphere that like it's morning, it's mid-morning or early morning, so you can start your day with a meetup.
Exactly. And you've mentioned London meetup, and you have also scheduled the next one, which is open space format, August 12th. Everyone can join. Virtual open space hosted on Zoom, and these are meetups. schedule for the next week. Blog post and some other stuff. Matt Braceford shared his experience and lessons learned of implementing iLogger support for his multi-targeted approach of vendor packages. Again, it's something really cool, something that we all probably should do more often. Custom logging extension, and here a great example of package-based logging, which can register on top of it.
I'm quite surprised that Matt's not had to do this in many other places. So, of course, with the multi-targeting thing, his idea is he's using the what are they called? The directives in .NET to basically, the compiler directives to say, if it's .NET 4.7, do this, which means it's V7, and if it's the V8, and if it's .NET Core, do this. And that's cool. But when you get to more complex things like a whole class that's completely changed, in this case, I think iLogger in V8 is just iLogger, and in V9 it's iLogger of T. So it's a generic. That's not really equivalent. So yeah, introducing your own abstraction around that means that they can be swapped out more easily. But then this doesn't look hugely complicated. I'm surprised there's not been many more things in either .NET or in Umbraco that would need changing.
Yeah, I must admit that I've seen a lot of iLogger implementations in various .NET and .NET Core projects, and it's always helpful to be able to replace it for even testing purposes. And yeah, here it's good to see how it helped also for Matt to deal. And I'm sure, again, a lot of package developers, a lot of people who are developing against Umbraco and will benefit from this kind of approach, and will see that this is easy and possible in general. So yeah, thanks Matt for sharing. Talking about Matt, we can also mention the new section of vendor case studies. And I was surprised seeing one of our projects here as well at the beginning. And it's great to see the project. I don't know how about you, but I'm learning a lot from what other people are doing and what can be done. And here it's great to see that vendor as a general e-commerce solution will highlight good projects and good work done on top of the vendor, because it will probably boost the creativity around the implementations, as same as Umbraco Words, for example, in general, but here in the e-commerce zone. So that's great to see. And yeah, I don't know if anyone can submit case studies or how they are populated.
I'm not sure. I know that Lucy's spoken to me before about getting some case studies in there, so maybe reach out to Lucy or Matt or send them. There's a contact form on the site as well.
Cool. Want to submit a case study? Contact us to find out. And yeah, last news on our list is not Umbraco directly related, but something interesting on the coding sphere. And it was raised by GitHub as a really nice extension of the GitHub repositories, and it's for visualizing a code base. So something what can help us to see what is in the project.
See how much. So you can quantify how much technical debt you've got. Like, look at all this messy ball of rubbish here.
Yeah, what technologies, what groups of what things are related to each other. But how I found it, because one of the Polish .NET community members, Cezary, raised that is it an innovation or something else, and shared his project back in the days from 5 years ago from one of the company hackathons, doing the code topology on top of the GitHub repository.
Yeah, I've also seen these types of tools before. And I think I may be completely dreaming, but I think even in maybe when Visual Studio was VSTS or Visual Studio Online or something, they had a similar thing in there too. But equally, code spaces, which nice, innovative, really cool in GitHub, but that existed and has existed as a separate service for a very long time as well by other companies. So yeah, it's not. Oh, you can put any URL.
Yeah, we can fetch the repo and see the graph. That's the beauty. Let's see Umbraco. It will be loading for a while, but let's leave it here.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, again, it helps to flag some of the, and again, visual representatives are. Oh wait,
you crashed your browser.
Thanks GitHub. But yeah, hopefully we'll see how Umbraco repository looks like. But yeah, again, interesting stuff. Visual representation of everything is good. It's crashing all the time. 2 weeks 2 weeks later, we should see it. Yeah, so that's it from our list, Callum. That's all of the news. If we missed anything, do we miss anything? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so. Like I said, it's a bit of a quieter week.
Yep. If we missed anything, let us know. And obviously share your links, share your work. Callum, do you have anything to add?
Go on. Let's do this. So okay. So Matt tweeted this week, hey Matt again, that he had updated the vendor V2 docs for V9, and he said that he had to change only one thing, and it was just the registration stuff. So in V9, you're going to have this way of opening in .NET Core, we've got this idea of like configuration pipeline. So you can add methods to it. You can chain methods and it kind of builds your application. It's this application builder concept. And so Umbraco exposes that with their own iApplication builder. And so the only thing that you need to do to get vendor V2 working is in your pipeline, go .add vendor. Maybe if you can open the screenshot, we can have a little, a close look. It's a single line type thing. So yeah, basically in the gap there where the comment is, you go add vendor, and
add vendor.
You have vendor, which is cool, and that's the .NET Core way. But I've been doing a bunch of package updates recently, like a whole bunch, and I know there was a thread about this a few weeks ago, but I've been going round and round in my head about how should we as Umbraco devs be making users configure packages. So we've got this idea of composers that can do everything that extension method on the builder can do. But then the composer is kind of magic. So it gets automatically discovered and it finds everything it needs and then it registers. But for certain packages, it just doesn't make sense. Like I've been looking at my friendly robots and sitemap packages. I'm a big fan of shipping them and they just work. In fact, with all my packages, they just work. Don't have to do anything, that it's kind of set up by default. But I feel like that's going against the grain of what .NET Core expects, and hence why Matt he could have kept it the exact way he had it in V8, sorry, but he's introduced an extension method. And I know that Lee's in the chat, for contentment, moved from the extension method to using the composer again, because if you have the composer and someone adds the extension method, it gets fired twice. And then you're in a bit of a tricky position. So I'm a bit stuck at the minute. Soren's saying in the chat, using some composers for default settings and putting custom settings in startup. And I agree, but then I've got a strange edge case to that in my V8 package, where I actually allow people to configure per request. And so the idea of configuration in startup CS is you can use the iConfig of T, and there's even filters so you can modify config after it's been registered. But that's then a singleton, effectively. It's static, so once it's registered, it can't be changed. So I'm going to probably have to put a load of stuff around it.
It is tricky, and again, I think we are mixing here two worlds. One is the coding-driven functionality and extensions for coding purposes, which can be used and still needs to be compiled, bundled, and stuff like that. Plus, functionality of the package, which sometimes we just want to work out of the box. We want to install package and have everything done for us, right? And I'm also confused here in between of approach of registering it from the code and then from the config-driven approach.
I think from a code point of view, it's required that way. Umbraco does that because they're bootstrapping a bunch of infrastructure effectively for us to then register plugins and packages. But as a package, as Lee has rightfully said here, if you've installed the package, that action is almost intent that you want the package to work. So that was the logic I've gone down. But then it feels un.net and so then we're kind of starting to blur
Mm-hmm.
the Umbraco way of doing things versus the .NET way of doing things.
But what Kevin said here, for example, has extension method, but if you don't use it, Composer fires default. That's something, in my opinion, the most useful and friendly for us. If we expect package to do the job, right?
I would love to see how Kevin's done that, because this may have just been me being a bit dumb. But I also
looking for feedback.
I also went for some inspiration. I went looking for some inspiration about how other packages were doing this, and came across Lee's contentment and saw how he'd done it. And I couldn't find the source for usync 9, so I couldn't see how Kevin was doing it. But if there's a nice way of preventing it from registering other things, then fantastic. Mm-hmm. 2 other things. Slight concern of if I have a package that say depends on vendor, but vendor require and that add whatever does all the registering stuff in DI, but my package needs to ensure that that's been ran in order for mine to work. And if mine then doesn't use the extension methods and just registers stuff magically, expecting vendors' implementations to be registered in the container, does it blow up? I don't know. And also, I think the one benefit of using the extensions is you can control the order, which does matter in a bunch of cases. So Umbraco calls all the stuff to bootstrap MVC and web API and everything. And if your package depends on that and runs, or your package depends on maybe another package that's being registered and runs before or after, I don't know if that causes problems. I have no answers here. I'm just dumping thoughts out into the world and seeing what people think. Yeah, it'd be nice if every package could agree on kind of a way of doing it, consistent.
Yeah. Plus, we need to remember here that Umbraco generally can also break it by doing something internally or doing something before we want to do something else. And in my experience and my whole experience with Umbraco, probably the runtime pipeline was the least explored and the most magical stuff for me, and here we all agreed at some point that we have a great occasion to learn and to do it maybe better. So that's a room for improvements and a room for discussions, and it will be really beneficial for all of us to understand it more and control it somehow. Yeah. Because again, in the whole microservices world, the great distributed architectures, async stuff, and magic. There are ways, right? There are event-driven solutions. There are some dependencies which are not talking to each other, not see each other. They are living separately completely, and still they work and benefit from each other. So we might need to complicate some stuff to get some easier solutions for some other stuff.
Yeah, I've actually found that. So I have a package for V8 called routing extensions, which is basically a wrapper around Umbraco's what they call root handlers, virtual node root handlers, which isn't a thing. Again, in Netcore, virtual root handlers aren't a thing, and so I've had to do kind of a bunch of things to make it work in a way that would feel a bit more friendly for me. Umbraco's done some good work as well. It's far more .NET Core, and like we're not having to do anything special for Umbraco. But sometimes a bit of friendliness on top of those APIs makes it feel and work just a hell of a lot nicer. So yeah, I've done that for a few packages where I've had to modify some stuff and get that to life. I don't know.
That's interesting challenge. Again, from one type of issues, we are jumping to another set of problems, and that's exciting at the same time. But we need to probably involve some of the .NET Core gurus or people who are building this kind of products, maybe, or at least this kind of architectures.
I think these kind of things will evolve over time as people build more packages, more complex packages, and we find, oh, that's a really annoying way of doing things. That's when people go and create extensions libraries like I've done, or we kind of decide on a de facto way. And like I'd said, I went and looked at Lee's and Kevin's repos for inspiration. I remember when I went to build my first V7 package, we were following copy and paste. Literally looking at some of the stuff that Lee and Matt had done as a template. Here's how I'm going to structure it, and ultimately that's going to be the way things are. People are going to copy whoever goes first. So yeah, I'd quite like to get it right now, and then in the future maybe evolve it.
Couple years from now on, and we will be saying, "Oh, this back office editor in browser was awesome. I want to edit my templates and views directly there." But that's the monoliths weren't bad. I love them. I love them. So yeah, it's coming in circles, and we need to learn. We need to learn from each other, and we can just probably be glad that we have people like you've mentioned, Kevin, Lee, Matt, and everyone else Soren, who are sharing and exploring the paths. For all of us, because we can learn and we can share what we've learned, and hopefully copy and paste the good approaches and avoid bad mistakes.
Yeah.
That's a good output for all of us, and mission for the next weeks to share.
I saw Chad's in the chat. Hey Chad, we're big fans. But saying Sebastian's been really busy on the issue tracker and merging PRs. So well done, Seb. You're a busy bee. That's good. Good to see.
Yeah, that's good.
As a Dutch person, I guess Seb's not entitled to take ridiculous amounts of holiday like the rest of the Danes.
maybe, or already have it done, as some of the people. Cool. Thanks everyone for being with us this week. Thanks Lee for the coffee. I prefer the black one. Callum,
yeah, Lee asked us how we take our coffee, and the answer is I don't drink hot drinks, so I'll buy an orange.
But we are translating into donuts, right, Callum?
Donuts.
That's exchangeable.
Donuts.
Exchangeable. But yeah, thank you for all the support. Thank you for being with us. Leave the thumbs up. I learned recently that it helps reach more people on YouTube. So probably we can be found by more people interested in Umbraco news if you will leave this thumbs up here on YouTube. And yeah, usually and as usual, share it across your friends, colleagues, family, and everyone else who might benefit from learning more about Umbraco news. And yeah, join us next Friday.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you on next Friday. Bye bye.